Hi, and welcome to the first installment of What the Health. I'm Noelle Bellow, your host, and today we are going to be talking about AI and medicine and where that all fits in. I have an amazing guest for us today, VP of Science and Tech at Dotmatics. We've got Phil Mounteney with us to discuss AI being used in the health space. Phil, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. I think when people hear AI in general, they kind of proceed with caution a little bit. There's a lot of unknowns when it comes to that. So I'm curious, though, it's becoming such a trend in healthcare now. So I'm curious exactly how Dotmatics is using artificial intelligence.
Well, I think there's really two tiers of AI that's used in research. There's a lot of toil in research, a lot of manual handling, very specific data analyses. We use AI today for those point solutions, I call them. Where Dotmatics is helping our customers go to in the future, though, is actually to have AI that helps us predict and find new drugs. So today, AI is like a really handy research assistant. Tomorrow, it's going to be a research partner that helps us predict future medicines.
Okay, a partner. I like that. When it comes to, I was reading Dotmatics or reading about Dotmatics online, and it talked a lot about speed and advancements becoming quicker because of the use of AI. I feel like with humans, when we're trying to figure something out, we're told take it slow, step by step. That way you don't, end up with mistakes. Why is speed so important when it comes to creating medicines?
Well, it's important for a number of reasons. It takes today about 10 years and between $2 and $6 billion to create a drug. A lot of that time is because it's a very manual process. The data is very complicated in science, and new techniques are meaning that there's an explosion of data. So a lot of that time is actually just sorting through the data and finding trends. And AI is just much faster at doing that than a human. So actually, we can reduce those timescales, and that's going to help us find drugs faster and reduce costs for patients.
Okay. Cost is a big thing in terms of how much lower costs will be when AI is the one creating the medicines. Can you talk about those numbers?
It's difficult to say. About the first 6 years of bringing a drug to market is that discovery process, and that's where Dotmatics helps. We think we can reduce that by as much as 50, 60% perhaps. And then, of course, AI will be used downstream in clinical trials in manufacturing. So it's hard to say right now, but the cost savings could be quite significant.
Okay, okay. When I think about using AI for medicine, it kind of reminds me of back when people used to have a couple of symptoms and we'd be like, oh, put it into WebMD and figure out, what you've got or what's going on with you. Can you talk about that process of discovery? Is it similar to like what ChatGPT or other AI platforms do where, you type something in and then it kind of takes from the whole of the internet to try and give you an answer?
Well, I guess to address people's concerns, your data would never go out to the internet. The
Right.
crown jewels of any research company is their data. They're very protective over it. And in terms of how AI is used, it's really in those two tiers. So it could be like a large language model that helps you sort through a big block of text much more quickly than a human could do. But where we'd like to get it to is a more predictive future that helps us predict new drug targets. That's new disease, basically, and helps us design these molecules. If you think of the automotive industry, they've gone through a digital transformation. Years ago, they used to make clay models of cars that would help them basically look for drag effects. Today, of course, they build those in the computer. So they benefit from the computer being able to predict things before they make them. And that's where we want to get to with AI, with drug discovery.
I know that there are concerns, though, right, from patients. I mean, you're talking about cars, which is something we sit in, but medicine is something that we would put in our body. So there is that kind of, nerve wracking part of it of, we don't necessarily know. Obviously, there would be trials still, I would assume,
Oh, of
human
course, of
trials.
course. Um, FDA has already produced guidelines on how to use API and how to report on its usage. It's never going to fully replace clinical trials, all of the things that we do today. It's never going to replace the safety nets that we have in place. Simply going to make us way more efficient at getting to those trials. And that's going to be a huge benefit for everybody. It's
Okay.
also going to open the aperture for the types of drugs and the types of medicines that we can go for. And it's going to help us do more personalized medicine. And what that means is safer drugs that are more tailored to you personally.
That was going to be my next question, was how every body is different. So personalization is huge. I've just been starting to read a lot about, different diets and whatnot. Like certain diets won't work for certain
Right.
bodies because everyone responds to things differently. So that's it. So you see doctors working with AI to figure out medicinal dosages and that sort of thing?
Not only dosages, but also the actual drug or the cocktail of drugs that might be effective. If you think that it takes so long to produce a single drug right now, it makes personalized medicine not viable because we need to be faster. So it's actually going to help us tailor drugs, make them more safe, reduce side effects and things like that for patients. So it's going to be a wonderful improvement all around.
Okay. How else do you see AI improving the health sector? I feel like these days it's a concern for a lot of people, students at school, they're just using ChatGPT to figure things out or to write their papers, that sort of thing. There's those nerves about, your next doctor may have used ChatGPT or, some sort of AI to pass school. I guess, how do you see it changing healthcare? I want both the good and also maybe the not so good, or the areas we should maybe stay away from your perspective.
I don't think a doctor's ever going to pass their exams using using AI, and I certainly wouldn't encourage people to use ChatGPT to diagnose
Right.
symptoms, for example. I think that the great good that it's going to benefit the whole world really is in being able to treat more disease. Because right now it's not viable to treat some rare disease, but AI will make it more viable. It's going to bring down costs. It's going to bring us to drugs to market much faster. I like to think of AI as that kind of really handy research assistant that reduces the toil that we have to go through, like sifting through data, analyzing a report, for example, and it allows the humans to focus on what we do best, and that's that creativity, sparking those new ideas, pushing the frontiers of science, and kind of focus less on some of the boring grunt work that we just don't like doing, and we're not as good at as computers.
Well, there's so many diseases, cancer specifically. There's so many different ways that it can affect someone's body. As the ability to potentially find a cure for cancer in the next 5 to 10 years, maybe even sooner. I don't really know in terms of the speed factor, but that in and of itself would be an amazing thing, I think, for the world.
I completely agree. AI is going to help us find novel therapeutics that may well be able to do that. Of course, we still have to make them. We still have to test them. We still have to go through all of the rigor that we go through today. But you're right. There's diseases that we know about today that we're trying to find a cure for. There's diseases that we know about today that we're not even sure we can create a drug for, and AI is going to help us find those.
Amazing. Final question is, if you were trying to tell someone what Dotmatics does and why the work is important, what would you tell them?
When Dotmatics is one of the leading scientific software companies in the world. We help our customers assemble those data sets so that the AI can look for trends. And we're also helping by incorporating all of the research data, helping our customers move towards that predictive future. So we're actively trying to help bring down the time and the cost that it brings a drug to market.
All right. Phil Mounteney, thank you so much for joining me and giving us a little bit of insight on how AI and medicine work together.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.